皆様こんにちは。いつもインド投資マンスリー動画をご視聴いただき誠にありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。
今月は弊社グループインド拠点の CIO へのインタビューをお届けします。世界経済の先行きが見通しづらくなる中、投資家の皆様にとって信頼できる情報の重要性はますます高まっていると思います。インド現地にいるからこそ感じられるインド市場の可能性についてお届けできればと思います。それでは早速、弊社グループのインド拠点であるインド最大級の運用会社ICICI アセットマネジメントの最高投資責任者であるサンカラン・ナレンをご紹介したいと思います。
ナレンさん、こんにちは。本日はありがとうございます。インドはモンスーンの季節かと思いますが、いかがお過ごしですか？
Hello Mentani-san. Hello everyone. Monsoon came in early this year, as early as end of May. People in Japan may not be familiar with monsoon, but here in India, the rainfall can be extremely intense and street flooding is a frequent occurrence. But the rainfall is very important for Indian agriculture and also plays a significant role in inflation.
インドの消費者物価指数 CPI は食料品が大きいウェイトを占めているため、農作物の収穫量を左右するモンスーン期の降雨量が注目されているんですよね。今年の予想はいかがでしょうか？
Monsoon is expected to be above average this year. Indian Meteorological Department revised the estimated seasonal rainfall to be 106% of long period averages in 2025. So the inflation is expected to be low. As shown in this chart, there is a historical tendency for food inflation to be higher in years with insufficient rainfall, while it remained more stable in years with adequate rainfall.
インフレ率低下が見込まれていることは良いニュースですね。ニュースといえば、日本では米国の関税政策が大きく報道されています。インドではどのように報道されているのでしょうか？
It is widely reported, however, the tone is neutral. People are calmly analyzing the impact of these policies on the Indian economy. It is believed that India will be least affected by them because India has lesser goods trade with US, and thus this policy is perceived to have minimal impact on India's economy. Also, India is largely a domestic-driven economy. A large part of the GDP contribution comes from domestic economy, leading to lesser dependency on exports. We believe India continues to be one of the markets with lowest beta compared to other global markets. Furthermore, whereas the macroeconomic indicators do not look good for US, India's parameters seem comfortable, which might result in stable Indian rupee.
世界的に市場が不安定となる中、インドは有望な投資先として改めて注目を集めていますね。日本の個人投資家の間でもインドの経済成長、それに伴う株価上昇について関心が高まっていますが、今後さらに株価が上昇するために必要な要素は何でしょうか？見通しについて聞かせてください。
In February this year, the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, implemented its first policy rate cut in nearly 5 years. This was followed by additional rate reductions in April and June. Notably, the June cut exceeded market expectations with a 50 basis point reduction, signaling the RBI's strong commitment to front-loading monetary easing in support of economic growth. In total, the RBI has lowered its policy rate by 100 basis points in the first half of the current year alone. we believe that the cumulative impact of these measures may begin to manifest in the real economy during the second half of the year. Additionally, the income tax relief announced in this fiscal year's national budget is expected to generate an economic impact of approximately 1 trillion rupees, primarily through boosting personal consumption. These policy-driven effects may likely serve as another key driver of economic activity in the latter half of the year. If the monsoon season proceeds smoothly, we anticipate a strong harvest, which alongside easing food inflation may lead to increased farm income and support consumption demand in rural areas. Government spending, which had likely stagnated last year due to the lower house general election, is also expected to show signs of recovery. Even if the global economic growth remains subdued, we expect India's economy to remain resilient in the near term. Given the uncertainty surrounding US policy and heightened geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, markets are likely to remain volatile in the near term. In such an environment, it is challenging to predict how the short-term investment strategies would tend to perform. That said, macroeconomic indicators seem likely stable for India. India continues to be a long-term story backed by demographics, growth, and stable macros. In terms of uncertainty, it is all the more important to adopt a long-term investment perspective and focus on identifying the businesses that are positioned to capture India's long-term economic growth story.
インドではマクロ経済の安定性や一貫した前向きな政策運営、そして向上心を持つ中間層の拡大を背景に持続的な経済成長が続いており、こうした環境が長期的な視点で見ても今後の成長が期待可能な投資先として注目されている理由ということですね。それではリスクについても教えていただけますでしょうか。
Inflation needs continued and careful observation. However, we believe inflation is not a significant risk factor at present unless crude prices go out of hand due to the ongoing Iran-Israel conflict. From a valuation perspective, large cap stocks have corrected from their elevated levels seen in the latter half of last year and are now in line with its 3-year average. However, small and mid-cap stocks remain significantly overvalued compared to historical norms, warranting close attention. In current market environment, where volatility is expected to rise, we believe it is prudent to avoid taking excessive liquidity risks. In contrast to India's stable macroeconomic environment, the outlook for the US economy is believed to remain uncertain. Concerns persist around the direction of monetary policy by the Federal Reserve, and the US dollar is expected to remain weak against major global currencies. Looking at the US dollar index, which quantifies the value of the dollar against major foreign currencies, it is evident that the dollar has been trending to be weaker since the beginning of the year. Historically, a weaker dollar has often been favorable for emerging markets, and India is no exception. Backed by its sound domestic macro fundamentals, there seems to be a high possibility of India getting good foreign flows, which can be positive for large caps. However, I believe for Japanese investors, fluctuations in the US dollar Japanese yen exchange rate may pose a more significant risk.
ありがとうございました。それでは最後に日本の皆様にメッセージをお願いします。
Thank you very much for inviting me today. We believe India, with its large services sector and strong domestic demand, remains an attractive market for global investors with a long-term orientation.
ありがとうございました。
いかがでしたでしょうか。インド現地の運用者ならではの視点がインド市場をより深く理解するためのヒントとなりましたら幸いです。
インドの運用拠点の同僚と話して感じるのは、今回のナレンのように彼ら自身がインドの経済成長に自信を持っているということです。今後も現地に根ざした視点だからこそ捉えられるインド株式市場のダイナミズムや成長の可能性、リスクなどについてお届けできればと思います。
インド投資マンスリー7月号は以上となります。本日もご視聴いただきましてありがとうございました。次回もぜひご視聴ください。
ありがとうございました。